Welcome back to Laura's Design Studio. As you can see, I have molds sitting out here and they have been painted. Now, here's the deal. You guys know I really don't celebrate, or if you've been around here, I really don't celebrate Christmas. To me, it's a very overpriced commercial holiday. My opinions only. But, and I generally only have like very few Christmas molds. I think I have one Christmas mold that's too skeleton. I am gonna knock something over yet tonight. And then I think I have one with trees that I've done. There might be another one, trees. Those two are probably more winter than specific Christmas. But I have these. These are new. Because when I was at the market, she wanted to make sure everybody was going to have, you know, because right now everybody had out Halloween. So they were going around asking, trying to make sure that everybody was gonna have some type of holiday stuff out. So I was like, okay, I guess I am. My style of Christmas is Krampus. For those of you who don't know, you can look up that story. I'm trying to straighten you. You can look up that story. And that's Krampus, Krampus. And it's, that is more my style. Now, because I have granddaughters, and I have not put up Christmas anything for the last 20 plus years, since my kids were little. That was the last time that I really put up Christmas. And even then, most of the time we didn't, because we celebrated with the kids early, and then they went to their, we meaning my parents and I, and then they would go to their fathers, and we would go to Laughlin, Nevada for the holidays. How do you think I got to live there at one point? So we told the girls, they asked if they could put up a tree. And, you know, of course, we told them yes. And David's thinking about going and getting a real tree. Why are you not going into the snowflake? Go in. And they asked if they could decorate any way they wanted to. The reason they asked that is because their mother is a little OCD. And so every time they would put the ornaments on, she would go behind them and redo them to, you know, where she wanted them. So they asked us if they could do the tree by themselves. My son kind of has the same feeling as me, but you know, when you have kids, you do what you do. And so he told them, well, you guys can decorate it any way you want to, because you know your grandma's not going to touch the tree. I'm not gonna touch a tree, so it's your guys' tree. Do what you want. So I will probably donate this to their tree because we have nothing for Christmas because David didn't take anything, and of course I don't decorate Christmas. It's just not. It kind of lost all meaning a long time ago. My dad was the one who kind of held the family together, and when he died, it fell apart. There's no denying. My family is not close. We'll never be close. I don't care to be close. That's just, there are lots of things that's happened, and some people have made their mistakes. And when it comes to me, you don't get very many chances. I'm a very black and white person. So then, so we are doing that. I just do all of their birthdays are just before Christmas. I told my son, I said, couldn't you guys have kids, you know, spread apart? He's like, well, it's not my fault. She couldn't get pregnant except for every 3 years. Which is exactly what it is, but they're all in the same. You can definitely time his deployments by the kids. We have second oldest, November 11th. Next one down, November 16th. Next one down, November 17th. The only one who has a birthday other than that is the oldest one, Serena, and hers is December 28th. So, yeah. I mean, and then my birthday is January 6th. My son's birthday is January 27th. And his ex-wife, Lisa, her birthday is February 2nd. So, we basically have cake for 3 months and everybody's tired of it. So, it's gotten to the point where the kids don't even want cake for their birthday. They ask for other things like maybe an ice cream cake, maybe pastries. Yeah. Because it's like 3 months straight of nothing but birthdays or holidays. It's crazy. So this is my contribution to the holiday season. It'll be funny because my cats have never had a tree. You know what that could be? A disaster. between David's dog and my 3 big cats, large, very large cats, I foresee a tree being knocked down more than once. Just my prediction. My Lord Jesus. Slow fills. I have to get it into all these tight spaces, and yes, I'm backing everything in the indigo. Some of these molds didn't really want to be brushed on, so some of them kind of got the Claire chuck it all in. So in case you guys haven't been here long, currently on disability. I'll put that out there first. Will be for the rest of my life. Not by choice. I fought it for as long as I could. But I had a few different careers in my life. I started working when I was 15. Back then in New Mexico, you could get your license at 15 as long as you had a job, which I did. Now, when I tell you what I've done, or what I did at 15, most of you who know me very well wouldn't believe it. I was was a waitress at a truck stop. It's where I met my oldest dad. He was the cook, 6 years older than me. I was the 15-year-old. I was his jailbait. I was known for not taking shit from the customers. Because, you know, if you've ever been around a truck stop, you know what they're like. Not all, some. The some that gives them their reputation. I poured a pot of coffee in a guy's lap on purpose. And no, I wasn't fired. I told the owner that it was going to happen if he didn't do something about them. He told me to handle it the way I saw fit. So I did. I had a booth full of, well, not booth, table, 4 truckers sitting at the table. And for the majority, the 3 of them were, you know, respectful and nice. 1 was not. I was a very well-endowed teenager. And we had the stupidest uniforms ever. They had a, it was a V-neck with a zipper. And it was just like a quarter zip. It wasn't, you couldn't zip it all the way up. And this trucker decided he wanted to play games. So he was sitting on the outside of the booth, of the table, 4 chairs at the table. He was sitting closest, he was sitting in one of the aisle, I'll call them aisle seats, right? And every time I would come by with coffee, he would move his cup, move his coffee cup to the back of the booth, the back of the table, so that I had to lean over the table. Yeah. I told him I was not putting up with it, and if he didn't stop, I have matching ones, so I'm doing that. I was going to pour a pot of coffee in his lap. His buddies thought that was funny. And he, when I came back around with coffee, he proceeded to move the cup to the back of the table. And so I just moved my pot over his lap, brand new fresh pot too, and poured on right on him. Every last drop of it, brand new pot, full. And he started screaming. The owner, Lauren, he came out and he's like, "God damn it, what did you do?" And I said, "I poured coffee in his lap." He just looked at me and he said, "God damn it, Laura, did you have to use the fresh pot?" "Oh, yeah." I thought it was, you know, you couldn't have used the old one. No, because I knew what he was going to do. So I made sure. And his buddies that were sitting with him, the actual respectful men, left me a $300 tip. Because they said that nobody has ever had the guts to stand up to him. I said, well, he picked the wrong person. I don't play. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Watch me. I don't make idle threats. So, and no, I was not fired. I just looked at him and I said, Lauren, you told me to handle it the way I saw fit. He's like, yeah, but, you know, a whole pot? You wasted a whole pot on that? I said it was well worth every penny of it. He's like, okay, as long as you're satisfied. Yeah. My then boyfriend, who became my husband, he was cooking that day. And he just, I walked to the back and he looked at me and he goes, you weren't playing, were you? No. Not playing. There's a bubble right there. So after I had David at 18, yeah, do the math. And so then I worked in the social services field, which is what my mom always did, and she, matter of fact, we worked at the same place for a while. She wasn't my boss or anything. We worked in 2 different departments. But, so at 18, I became a behavior modification, certified behavior modification. And I was the youngest in New Mexico to ever be certified. And I worked with mentally and physically handicapped adults. And then I went back to school, put myself through college twice. Became a computer programmer. Never actually worked in that field. I actually ended up working for a Taiwanese company that sold computer parts. Because back then you couldn't go into a Walmart and pick out a computer. You had to go to a computer store and they had to build your computer. Well, I sold the components for them to build your computer. That was when I lived in Atlanta. Frankie's dad, my youngest dad, and I moved there. And I was their top salesperson. I was selling over $1 million a month in computer components. And I sold all over the world. I had one of my biggest customers was in Poland. So then I moved back to New Mexico, and I went back to working social services. Again, my mother and I worked at the same place. She ran the east side location, and I was supervisor. I ran the west side location. We had the same position, just two different ends of town. And that was an adult daycare for Alzheimer's patients and stuff like that. Alzheimer's, dementia, any type of disability. People who were wanting to keep either their parents or a kid that was mentally challenged at home but had to work. So it was literally like a daycare. They dropped them off in the morning. We went and picked them up by bus. And they stayed for the day, and then we would either take them home or they would be picked up. After that, I put myself back through school again to be well, no, not wrong. I quit the adult daycare because I got a job offer being a program director in the small town that we lived in, which is in the East Mountains of Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's a place called Moyarty. And I ran the domestic violence program. And that's where I became a law enforcement instructor, teaching domestic violence at the academy, at the police academy. After that, I put myself back through school, and I became a paralegal, nationally certified, and I worked the rest of my career days doing that. Specializing in family law, but worked everything, medical malpractice. I worked for most of the attorneys I worked for were general practice attorneys, and so we did a little of everything. So I worked criminal, I worked family law, every place I worked I was their only paralegal. And that was when I moved to Laughlin after my dad died. because it was the one place that I always felt like home, reminded me of him. Started looking for a job out there and got one in a matter of a week, which I thought was impossible because it's such a small area, but I did. I went and did the interview. I drove from Albuquerque to Laughlin. 6 hours is all it is. I drove there in one day to do 2 interviews, and on my way home I got calls from both of them saying that they wanted to hire me. So I took the job in Laughlin and moved to there. And then my lupus became so bad that I just could not continue to work. That about killed me, because I had worked since I was 15. I never, since the age of 15, I never went without a job. Never. I about lost my mind. I had to quit working. I had to quit playing pool because I was a competitive pool player, competitive dart player. Bubbles died. I tried to continue playing pool, it just didn't work. My spine got so bad that it just, you have a bubble. Oh, there. Well, now you know more about me, more than you ever wanted to know. Oh, but can I tell you stories about attorneys I worked for and the crazy stuff I put up with? It was interesting. If you've ever worked with attorneys, you know they're not normal. There's always something wrong with them. Always. Haven't met an attorney that didn't have one kind of problem or another. I don't have enough to pour all of these. We'll just pour the rest of them another time. This is late night with Laura, because it's probably about midnight right now. Maybe even later. I don't sleep a lot, so sometimes I'm just like, might as well pour something. Okay, how many are we gonna have? have some that get poured tomorrow. I'm not even going to turn on the heat mat for these, so they're going to sit until tomorrow. I always wake up early, so I'll wake up, make up a small batch, and finish these up. And I will see you guys on the demold. When I worked domestic violence, I worked with both victims and abusers. Torrance County, which is Moriarty, New Mexico, has the highest rate per capita of domestic violence, and I was the only one they had. I was also the supervisor over the intake staff that actually worked at the shelter. My office was in these mountains. And then I would go to Santa Fe to teach at the academy. I also did, here's a funny one for you guys, if you know anything about me, and you just heard about how I feel about Christmas. Here's a funny story for you. I also used to, part of my job was to go into the schools at prom time, because that was when they would have, you know, the most problems with teenagers and domestic violence. You know, prom is one of those things that stuff can come out of. Where is my magic spatula, and why am I not seeing? Here's one. And I would go into schools. Well, I had videos that I showed, that I used during my speeches of true crime scenes. And my stuff, I did not water it down for anybody. And the people who, you know, the school officials who were asking me to come in knew that. And you guys know I'm not really into religion. And I had one of the largest schools in Albuquerque, private school, religious private school, Catholic private school, asked me to come in before they had their prom. And I said, I'm not the person that you want. And they're like, yes, we specifically asked for you. And I said, I can get you somebody else, you know. I said, I teach at a law enforcement academy. I said, and I don't water my stuff down for anybody, because in my opinion, they need to see the truth, how these things play out if they're not stopped early on. I said, and I have crime scene, you know, videos that I use. There's going to be interviews with victims that, you know, are going to tell the truth and use language that, you know, you guys don't. And he was like, no, that's what we need. We've had so many problems. And I said, okay. I said, the only way that I am doing this is I will tell everybody at the beginning that this is not for the lighthearted, because they were inviting the parents also. And I said, you know, I'm gonna ask anybody who has a problem with language or the way I am going to present this material that they need to leave now. And he's like, okay, if that's what you feel is necessary. And I said, yeah, because that's not the way I operate. And he's like, no. I said, are you sure? He's like, yeah, I'm sure. I said, okay. And I made my little disclaimer at the beginning that this was going to involve language and graphic scenes. And, you know, if I understand the parents are here, if you don't want your kids to be a part of this, you need to leave now. And that's the way it's gonna happen. Surprisingly enough, everybody stayed. And so did the priest who was in, I guess, priest, father. See, I'm really bad with those things. The head of the school, he stayed. And I started in and nobody left. I was shocked because I really thought I would run people out of there, but I didn't. And afterwards they thanked me and said, you know, we needed to hear the truth. I was like, well, that's what you get when you're asking me to come in. You're gonna get the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And I know there were a lot of tears that day because, you know, my kids grew up with me doing this, so they never thought anything of it. You know, it was just, that was my job. It's what I did. And because I worked in such a small town and worked and lived in that same town, you know, I went into the prisons also, taught anger management, and we had a prison that was my regular prison to go to. I did 2. Well, I did 3. I did Albuquerque's jail. I did the Torrance County's prison, which held everything from county to federal charges, murders, all that. And because I lived in that town and worked in that town, and it was a small town that everybody knew everybody, you cannot hide from people. So I would have the guys, it's always the guys, showing up at my doorstep, and my kids were just used to it, and they would be like, Mom, one of your convicts or your abusers, they're at the door. That's, you know, they grew up with me doing that, so they didn't think it was very different. And there was one day, the kids were always, all the kids in the neighborhood were at my house all the time. I came home from work, and you have to understand, I had, some of you won't know this term, VCR tapes. All right, that's all I'm getting out of there. VCR tapes that were actual crime scenes, and one of the ones that I had was the Chimayo Massacre, which was a very famous domestic violence case. They got nationwide attention. And it was a guy who is currently still, last I looked, he is still on death row. Surprisingly enough, they moved him, last time I heard, they moved him to a Texas prison. I don't know which one. But, so I had that videotaped. I walked in my house, here are the kids and all their friends sitting there viewing the tape. And I was like, what the hell are you guys doing? They're like, oh, we're just showing them what you do. And I said, no, turn that off. This, you can't, no. Because, you know, they knew I reviewed the tapes. They knew what I did. It wasn't a secret. The prisoners nicknamed me the Angry Lady because I would come in and do anger management classes. So, I had been on TV for interviews and a PBS television station that broadcast from Albuquerque. I had been on television talking every major abuse thing that happened in Albuquerque and Moriarty and anywhere in between. Seems like I was always the one who would, the media would get a hold of. So, I mean, the parents and everybody, they all knew what I did. Everybody did. And, I'm like, no, you cannot be showing my tapes to your friends. You cannot. That one was a horrible, horrible crime scene. Because it was a lady and her kids. And they went to the house to get their belongings. He, the husband, and believe me, I had male victims too, so, it's not the norm, but yes, it does happen. And I had male victims. Her family went with her. Never thought about needing, an escort. He was supposed to be out, away. And they went there with the U-Haul to get everything, the kids' stuff, her stuff, all that kind of stuff. And he was sitting up in the very mountainous area right there where they were. And he was sitting up in the hill and picking people off one by one. Killed her, the kids, her family that was there helping. Killed 3 officers. because they got a call. They did not, she did not ask for an escort out there. So when the police got the phone call, Chi Mile is a very small area. Everybody knows everybody. These officers that went out there thought nothing of it because they had gone to high school with him. And the first one, and this is one of the reasons that I use this tape to teach with. The first thing about a domestic violence thing is you do not roll up to the place. You park a ways away and you walk your ass to that. Instead, because they thought no big deal, they know him, the first officer pulls up into the driveway. It kind of goes down in, and he went to step out of his car and got shot right through the eye. He had a sniper rifle. The next cop that came in saw the first cop car, didn't see him because of course he's on the ground, half in, half out of the car. They pulled in, got out of the car, they got taken out. The third officer was a state police, because the first two were locals. The third one was a state police officer who pulled in seeing the two other cars, and he got shot. Somebody got the word out that he was sitting up in the hill just picking people off. Now, mind you, the entire family was dead at that point. The officers were just, extra for him. And, yeah, that's how it happened. And one of the worst photographs ever in that crime scene, because they videotaped all crime scenes to see where, because I was also published as on the death review team for New Mexico. So what we did is we went through all the, I'm looking for my thing I put away there. We went through all the cases to find out where the officers made mistakes. And so those were teaching tapes for me. And I used them in everything. I used them at the academy. I used them at the schools. But the worst picture was the baby sitting in the car seat, strapped in the U-Haul, dead with a bullet through his eye. A baby. Yeah. He's a special individual. Let me tell you. And then, to top it off, because he had killed his wife and all of his kids, he was suing the state for not following proper police procedures, and that's why the officers were dead. Let's just say that case didn't go very far. Sorry, I'm just cleaning this up while I'm talking to you guys. But, yeah. Like I said, worked it for 10 years. And my kids just thought what I did was normal. Not sure how disturbing that is. I think it's pretty disturbing. I mean, you can't exactly keep them away from what you do. You know, but the fact that my kids grew up with just random people coming to my front door that just got out of prison for one thing or another. It didn't matter what they were in for. They always seemed to find me. Like I said, it wasn't hard because it was this very small, still is, very small town. Everybody knows everybody. And at the same time, I was a bouncer at the local bar. I did that on the weekends. So yeah, they found me. It wasn't too hard to find. Yeah. Alright guys, that's cleaned up. I'm done. Tomorrow morning I'm going to mix up a little bit and take care of these last 5. And then we'll do demold later on. Talk to you soon. Alright, let's get to demolding. Let's see. Let's do the skull. There he is, and he's holographic. I love him. He's going to end up being a keychain. Then we have a little rose here. And whatever this thing is. I'm not sure. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Here is my INTORESIN cat mold, which I've used so much. It's white, and I just got this mold last month. That's how much I use it. But there he is. He's very cute. Like I told you guys, I pick out affordable molds for somebody like me. Even though they do send me these molds, I pick out low-cost ones so that everybody could have a chance to get a INTORESIN mold. I show you the less expensive instead of the high-end stuff. Because I know personally I could never afford to buy one of those trays. I would love to have one, but I'm not going to do that because number one, you know, I just started with INTORESIN and don't feel that it would be appropriate for me to ask for anything that expensive. And 2, because it's not something I could personally afford on my own. So that is why I picked the molds that I do. Now let's see, I had painted all these late last night. Like I was doing this at like midnight when I was talking to you guys, the first part of this video. And this is the next day, the next afternoon actually. So there is that bell. Like I said, I'm going to use these as like little Christmas ornaments for a little Christmas tree. And I will probably, for my next show, my next market, I will probably go try and find like a, I don't know if Dollar Tree has their Christmas stuff out yet, but like one of those cheap little trees. I'll send my son after one in some weird color to catch. Could have sworn I just dropped something. Maybe it was the cat rubbing me. Okay, this one needs some cleanup. Like I said, I was doing these, you know, at midnight. Definitely needs cleanup, but they are still a little soft because they are so thin. But that snowman was done in a white, which with the indigo turned him like almost a silver. And then that's the indigo around. I had backed everything with indigo. If you remember that from last night, and I don't even know what I was talking about last night. Well, I kind of do. Yeah, I was talking about all the jobs I had. All the careers that I've managed in my lifetime. The crazy stuff that I have been a part of. Yes, some of these are gonna need some cleanup. Okay, that's funny because that sleigh looks pink, and that was brushed with bright red. But Santa's sleigh looks a little pink. I said I gotta clean these up, but they're still too bendy to clean up. Let's see. This star was brushed with sunny gold. But I am going to use these as little Christmas ornaments on a tiny tree. Here's one. That was completely brushed with that sunny gold. The star was brushed with sunny gold, and the bow was brushed with silk blue. These weren't the easiest to fill because you need I should have put it in a cup with a very thin spout on it. This was brushed with bronze. That one was brushed with something, but I don't remember what I brushed it with. What did I brush it with? I don't know, because it looks like the same color as the indigo, and I didn't brush it with indigo, I know. This one was brushed with the fruit green, and the bow was that blue, that silk blue. I'm always going to require cleanup. I know I kept overfilling these. These I am curious because it looks like some of them are individual and you hang them, which is fine, but that's a small hole to get 2 hooks through, if you understand what I mean. Now this one I think is attached. again, this was brushed with that fruit green. And the moons I had brushed with gray. Like here's one, it's not attached, which is fine. Makes them easier to clean up, that's for sure. But see that hole right there? It's little. You would literally have to get a jump ring through it, because here's the snowflake that has the hole. You would have to get a jump ring through that to hang that, and then you would need another hook to go through that hole to hang it on a tree, or even if you made earrings out of it, you would have to do the same thing. So the only thing that I can think is that yes, you can dangle the, essentially the charm through there, and then drill another hole for a hanger. I don't know, after these harden up, I'm gonna have to see that, because I wouldn't want to drill out this hole anymore because it's barely got anything around it. So, and this one is the same way, except for it's the moon and a tree. So there is your moon. I can't hold, yeah. This is why I don't do finishing on camera. So then you have your little tree. And they're really cute. You almost have to, well, I don't think almost, you have to drill another hole, because that hole is just not big enough to get 2 jump rings through. Because essentially that's what you would need, is 2 jump rings. No, that won't work. I thought, well, maybe my triangle ones would work. No, it won't work because I can't. It would only go one way. Right? Yeah. Same problem. So, after these harden up and I can clean them up and everything, I'll tell you how I ended up handling this problem. Because I'm not sure right now. This one is also the same way. The bell is detached from the moon. So all these that are like this, I am going to have to figure out a way to make them work. But first I gotta be able to clean them up. Because last night I was over pouring everything. Next time, be smart and use one of those tiny cups with the... Use one of these. Now this one is attached, so there isn't a problem here because it's attached by that back leg. So here's another snowflake one. So some of these could actually be earrings, the ones that you have 2 of. I'm telling you, I'm writing that thing about all my pet peeves that resin companies do. Whether it's a mold company or a company that just does resin. I have pet peeves, people. So yeah, that's your other snowflake. So the ones that you have 2 of, you can actually make into earrings. And And which one is the one that doesn't? Because there were 3 molds, so there is the tree in the moon. Here's the snowman in the moon. Okay, so these ones are the ones, no, not the angel. Yeah. This one matched with the first ones that I came out with, and this one doesn't match either. So the ones that have 2 of everything can be earrings. The other ones, ornaments. So like that angel, it's attached. But again, this snowman is not attached. So here's that blue bell ornament. That could be earrings because you have 2 of them. I got duped again because I just bought another thing that has 1 of everything on it. It was in my cart and apparently didn't take a second look at it, so I got duped again. And it's the one that's really oh, it's the one with the moons, but like the fairies and stuff. Yeah, those would be beautiful earrings, but you're gonna have to pour them twice and try and see if you can get them to match. That irritates me. One day I'm gonna have my list made. And I'll just spout it off during a video. And you guys need to tell me what yours are so that I can add them. There's the snowman again. This one's got a few bubbles in it. I can fix it, but it's got a few bubbles. Next time I do these, I will be smart and use a thin cup. Use my little cup with a spout on it, that you can get really narrow, so that you don't have all this overpour trying to get these things filled. There's that one. Okay guys, like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Hit that black bell so the next time I upload a video you are notified. And don't forget about all the discount codes in the description box. They are there for you to, yeah. They are there for you to save money. I do get a little kickback on some of them, not all of them. And all that does is help me to buy more stuff to show you, because unlike bigger channels, my channel does not get a whole lot for free. I told you in a previous video which companies have actually sent me something, and that would be Craftor, Resiners, and INTORESIN. Every other company, and they've only sent me I think now I've gotten 2 things from Resiners. I got the little hand mixer, which I love. That thing's like my favorite thing in the world. And I got those Halloween molds, which were really nice. And then INTORESIN, of course, I got the cat. And the new ones, the moon and sun and the skeleton rose. There's another one. What other one did I get with the cat? I can't remember which other one I got with the cat. It was another small mold. I don't know. What was it? Now that's bothering me. I'll have to figure that out. And then, Craftor has sent me a few things of resin over time, but alright guys, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.